Okay, Borstein,
Yes, ma'am.
Gaffney,
Present.
Meigs,
Sam, you're on mute.
Yes.
thank you. Scylla,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll now lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda, or does anybody want to move anything around? I'm going to ask Steve, do we have guests here that we'd like to accommodate?
Yes, we have Justin Supers here for a consent item, number 7E, and then we have Paul Pham here for the audit item, which is item number 8.
Well, the consent is 7. Well, let's do this. If no one objects, let's move consent number 7 and the fiscal year audits number 8 to right after open time. If anybody doesn't have any objection, and if I could have a motion to that.
So moved.
That's Michael. Thank you.
Well,
A second. It's Tom. And a vote on that, Julia, please.
Thank you. Borstein,
Yes.
Gaffney,
Yes.
Meigs,
Yes.
Scylla,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
And with that, let's move right to number 7, the consent calendar. Matters list, I'm sorry, that's not true. Open time. I'm not sure I see any public, but I'm still going to offer open time for public to raise items not on the agenda or for any future agenda item. Do I have any public here? Seeing none, I'm going to close open time and move to agenda item number 7, the consent calendar. Matters listed under this item are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion. The consent calendar may include resolutions. Therefore, the motion, second, and the vote will be also applicable to the resolutions and recorded accordingly. There will be no separate discussions of these items unless requested by a member of the board or the public prior to the time the board votes on the motion to adopt. Having said that, do we have anybody requesting a motion, an item to be pulled from the consent calendar?
Well, we have Justin here for item 7E. And we might want to have a brief discussion.
Okay. Would anybody like to pull anything else? Seeing none, Justin, do you want to talk about the contract change order number 4 for the Butterfield Arroyo Kendrick Gravity Sewer Improvement Project with Rangers Pipelines Incorporated for the amount of $87,670.75, which is consent item 7E.
Yes, please. So change order number 4 for, it was just described, was initiated by myself, the construction manager, for additional work required to complete planned work on Fawn Drive. The project as a whole was divided due to funding sources: SRF for Butterfield, district capital funds for Fawn Drive. We had an allowance, the typical allowance for district's use on Butterfield, which did not apply to Fawn Drive. Therefore, we're bringing this change order to the board to cover those expenses. The change order, just in general, covers the encroachment permit for Marin County, and then some additional extra work bills that extra work that was required. We ran into a county storm drain that was sitting on top of the sanitary main. That caused a couple of sags in the sanitary main, so we addressed that, removed some structures, rebuilt the county storm drain where necessary. That accounted for the vast majority of it. And we did save some money. We changed the construction method from open cut on Lower Fawn Drive to bursting, saved about $40,000. Some of that money was used to offset the repair of the storm drain and whatnot. So As we currently stand with the change order on Fawn Drive is right on budget. We do anticipate some additional costs coming through when the final restoration is done next week. Don't have those costs nailed down yet, but we anticipate around $60,000. But overall, we're under budget on Butterfield by about 100,000. So the project as a whole should come in under budget.
Excellent.
So that's a quick summary if there are any questions.
Mary? None. Pam, I can't see you, but do you have any questions?
Who, me?
Pam?
Yeah.
I'm going to go to Michael. Do you have any questions?
Nice job on saving the $40,000 by the alternative method. So that was great. Thank you.
Sure.
Tom?
Well, let's see, we had an allowance of 200,000 and we spent 89,000 on Arroyo. And now we're going to spend another 88,000. And then you said an additional 60,000, but we saved 40. Is that the way it works? So probably we'll be slightly under budget.
We are projected to be under. So Butterfield, work is complete on Butterfield, and we are currently $100,000 under budget on Butterfield. You know, understanding that is separate from Fawn Drive. Fawn Drive, with this change order of approximately $87,000, we are right at budget on Fawn Drive. So with the additional or the anticipated cost for restoration, we will be over budget on the Fawn Drive portion, which will be offset by the under budget on Butterfield, understanding that those are just, separate funding sources. So the district will be saving some money on the loan portion, but spending some additional out of pocket.
Well, that's a deal with newer projects, isn't it? You dig up the ground, you're not positive what's there until you dig it up.
Right.
So
It's a box of chocolate.
this is one of these deals, we have to do it.
Yeah.
We'll do it.
So it might be worth noting that we're quite a bit under the engineer's estimate on this whole project, both the Butterfield and the Fawn Drive portions. So having some slight overages is still far under what we budgeted for the project.
And to reiterate what Steve's saying, currently I think we're about 4% on change orders, which in the scheme of things is pretty reasonable.
Okay. Well, I pulled the item. I'm satisfied. Those are more questions.
Pam?
Just a quick question about, you said pipe bursting, right, Justin?
Correct.
So what I want to know, is that our pipe bursting equipment, or are we, someone else is doing it? Or who's doing it, I guess, is the question.
The Ranger did that, is that right?
The contractor owns the equipment and they are doing the bursting.
Okay. So I guess we're not doing bursting anymore, right?
No, we could do some of our own. It's just this project was a Ranger project.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Each individual, the construction methods vary project to project, and the contractor brings their expertise to the table to perform that work. And in this case, they were, Ranger was qualified to do the bursting. So they were doing a combination of open cut and burst.
Great. Thank you.
Quite welcome.
Thank you. And then Steve, if I remember correctly, I asked you if there was any more work we're doing on Butterfield. And did you tell me, I'm sorry, it was yesterday, did you tell me there was one more small project, or there was no more projects really planned?
No more. There was a larger project bid in around 2016, 2017 that was broken into 3 projects, which were all pretty major. And this was the third of the 3. We can't say never to a major arterial like Butterfield, where more work will happen in the future. But in the near future, we don't anticipate anything. There's some in the gravity sewer 2223 project, which you issued design contract to a couple months ago. There are sections of sewer to be upgraded that terminate at Butterfield Road.
Okay. All right, so thank you. And what I also asked is, we've done a bunch of patch paving on Butterfield, and that you directed me to the fact that the town of San Anselmo will now do a slurry seal on Butterfield sometime next year, or either this summer or next summer. And so that at that point, Butterfield will look like a nice road again, because it's patched all over the place. Is that correct?
That is
Next summer?
correct. Yes,
And
that
it's
is
just
correct.
next summer or this summer?
Next summer. Or sorry,
Okay.
this coming summer. I forget we're in 22
Oh, really?
now.
Okay.
So it is the
right.
summer 22 is what.
Do you know when? Because I can call Public Works just from around curiosity as to when they're doing it. But do you know when in the summer?
No, Scott did not let me know when we were partnering to do the paving. We took care of that in November or so, but I don't have a schedule for when they plan to do their slurry.
Just from my own curiosity, I'll reach out to Scott or Sean Condry and I'll ask. Yeah, the people at Butterfield have, they need a little break.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Justin. That was great. Do we have no more questions on that? And nobody pulled any other items off the consent calendar. Can I have a motion to move the consent calendar?
Move the consent calendar.
No, I second.
I'll second.
Thank you very much. Julia, can we have a vote on that, please?
Yes, thank you. Borstein,
Yes.
Gaffney,
Yes.
Meggs,
Yes.
Priscilla. Yes. Kelly.
Yes. Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
and thank you, Justin.
Okay, good evening.
Appreciate you coming. Yep. Again, you're welcome to stay. Oh, he left. All right, let's move to number 8, consideration of accepting fiscal year 2021 financial audit and annual comprehensive financial report. That is item number 8, and that is Felicia.
Yeah, if Felicia want to introduce this annual exercise in reporting on our fiscal health.
Now, you're not on mute, but we can't hear you. Your indication is that you're not on mute, but we can't hear you. Nope.
Yeah, I can say that the name has changed from the comprehensive annual financial report to the annual comprehensive financial report.
All right, I changed microphones. Is that any better?
Oh, there we go. Yes.
It's the same. Oh, well, anyway. Well, good. I'm pleased to present the district's annual financial report to the board of directors, working again with Pagan & Associates. Paul Pham, auditors, joined us here today. I also want to give special appreciation to our new finance supervisor, Corey Spray, who's joining us tonight. Corey, as the board knows, started with the district early in January, picked up the audit process, jumped in with both feet running, and got this completed by our deadline of January 31st. So special thanks to Corey and Paul for preparing this document for the year. The district's financial positions are in very good shape. Our cash positions have increased, and our internal controls are showed to be in very good shape, as well as the auditor has provided us an unmodified opinion on our financial condition and our finances. So the staff did present this item to the finance committee yesterday. We received several comments. We've made copious notes. The comments from the finance committee were particularly astute, I will say, and much appreciated, and we will be making edits to this presentation, the presentation of this report for next year. This year, because the report was prepared and presented to the board after January 31, and there were no material changes suggested by the Finance Committee. We don't recommend making changes to this year's report, but we'll certainly incorporate those comments and edits for next year. With that, I think I'd like to turn it over to Paul, our auditor, for our fifth year of audit services. So Paul, would you like to add to
thank you. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that, Felicia, and thank you, board, for inviting me out to share this with you. Like Felicia said, it was a great audit, and I want to echo that her comment about thanking Corey, who stepped in there and really helped out, at the crucial time with Melvin leaving. So what I'd like to do is just, since I see a lot of familiar faces, I'll just go over the auditing standards and scope real quick, and then I'll get right into some of the financial highlights and get you right to the audit results. So our audit, the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, they issue statements on auditing standards that we follow. And because you guys are a local government, the Government Accountability Office, they issue government auditing standards that we adhere to as well. The district did not have expenditures of federal awards in excess of $750,000, so uniform guidance in the single audit was not applicable to the district. So as far as our audit process, we come out halfway through the year, we take a look at the district's internal controls, we do some sampling just to assess whether or not the district's internal controls are properly designed and implemented. And after the year end, when the books are closed, we crunch the numbers, with substantiating balances, doing analytical procedures and things of that sort. Some of the key items that I wanted to highlight this year, if I can reference you to page 8, table 1, not a lot changed in the year, but the main items you'll see there is that your restricted cash and investments dropped substantially, and that's expected. You basically took your restricted bond money and spent them on capital projects, so you'll see a kind of a flip there from the cash and investments to a capital asset. Another piece is you'll see a big drop in your non-current liabilities. That's just that's just paying down the long-term liabilities, those bonds that you had. So that, again, that is also expected. So outside of that, everything else was business as usual. You'll see an increase there in sewer service charges on table 2. And like Felicia said, there's overall there was a net change in your financial position of just over $6 million, taking you to an ending net position of $87.6 million. So you guys are in good shape as far as your net position goes. As far as the audit results, we had a great audit, like I mentioned, with respect to the financial statements. We issued a unmodified opinion, which means that your financial statements were fairly presented in all material respects. With respect to internal controls over financial reporting and compliance, our audit did not identify any deficiencies in internal controls or financial reporting that we considered to be material weaknesses. Our tests disclosed no instances of non-compliance or other matters that are required to be reported under government auditing standards. And then lastly, I wanted to congratulate the district on receiving another certificate of achievement and excellence in financial reporting with the GFOA award. That's something to be very proud of. It's a lot of work to put that together. It provides a lot of transparency, provides the users of the financial statements with a lot of additional information. So congratulations on that, and we anticipate that you guys will have another year with this submission for FY21. So I'll open up for questions if there are any.
Hi, Paul. On page 11, in the table 4, just a basic question on net pension liability. Can you just make that really simple for me and tell me, is that our pension liability? Or I thought our pension liability was less than that amount for 21.
Yeah, so it's really done based on an actuarial study. So you guys are part of a statewide pool, the pension public employers retirement system. So that's a pool of many local agencies, and what they have actuaries that do a study that allocates your proportionate share of that pool. And so we have this fancy workbook that calculates your portion of each of the components of the liability. So really that number, it's somewhat of a moving target because from year to year, you'll have adjustments done in terms of like the discount rate, the trends in costs, things of that sort. But with your question related to the actual liability, you guys did set some money aside to offset the liability. So you'll see that reflected. Give me 1 second. Let me see if I can reference you to a page.
Page 49.
Page 31. Did you say 49?
I said 49, yeah, but
Oh, let me see what I got on
that was
49.
OPEB maybe. That was OPEB.
Oh, that was OPEB. Okay, no, I'm on page 31. So 31, you see there that CEPPT. That's the money. The thing with it is that there's two options. One is you can make additional payments into the PERS plan itself, which will offset your liability, or you can put it into a trust, which is kind of setting money aside. It's an irrevocable trust. You can't touch that money for any other purpose, but that money is there strictly for the purpose of paying future pension liabilities. So you've got those two things going on there. So.
Okay. And that restricted cash is what you're talking about right now on page 31, correct?
That's right. Yeah, that CEPPT part. Yeah.
Irrevocable.
That's the irrevocable trust.
I think it should say that in here for people like me.
Yeah, if the paragraph right below it, it gets into some of the details there. The restricted cash for fiscal agent. Yeah, that paragraph.
Yeah, restricted, but you don't know how it's restricted. Maybe I'm being nitpicky, but irrevocable, that's usually it can't be messed with, period.
That's
So,
correct. That's correct.
okay.
Yeah, like you can't. The district does not have the option to pull money out of that trust and spend it on like payroll or lease or rent or other things of that matter. It's strictly for paying pension expense. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I don't know what other people think of that, but
Do you have any other questions, Pam?
That's the plan, Pam, that we approved to, try and fund down our pension liability. And we put what, a total of 450,000 a year in, I think 100,000 goes into the
In
OPEB.
OPEB, and 350 in pension liability. Yep.
And so that was our plan to be down that. At the Finance Committee, we had the question of right above Pam's question, the OPEB liability took a jump of about $479,000. And here we were, wait a minute now, we had it down by the 450,000 or something like that. And the explanation of that is that that increase, most of the 479,000, in fact, 470,000 of it is due to the plan that the employees are going to pay for. So our comment was maybe we could show district liability and then the employee liability. And remember, they voted to establish a new, I guess, medical plan or whatever it was. And we said, well, okay, but we're not going to pay for that. And we're not going to, we're not responsible for the unfunded liability. And so that was explained. And there's a detail of that on page 49, change in net OPEB liability. So they took us through that yesterday, and it was quite cool. We asked if they could show what part is district liability and what part is our employees' liability. And they said yes.
That's exactly
And
right. Thank you.
And we certainly would like that pointed out in the management notes and discussions for next year's audit, so that it's broken out in next year's audit clearly, because, yes, we've made good work on our OPEB liability, and it looks like the reverse is true, that we've made horrible work on it. And we gave the employees what they wanted, and that was good, and they agreed to pay for it, and that was good. And we need to have these in this audit report or in our financial report so that these things are noted. Tom, I'm going to let you go on and talk about some of the other points, but I just wanted to say, I want to thank Felicia for pointing out that the financial committee had some astute comments. Those were Tom's. So Tom, if you had some other comments you'd like to point out to the board tonight, please do so.
Well, I thought we had a real, in-depth discussion, and that was the key point. Others were kind of, clarifications which we learned about, and I don't think we need, unless somebody wants to go over any of them, but I think it was more like clarifications and ways we like to have things presented. And if you go through the audit, it's just loaded with good information, especially in the back pages. And Corey told us about our pension liability went up a lot because they changed the discount rate. It went to 6.8. What was it before, Corey? Was it 7 or 7 1/4?
It was a little over 7. So that by that magnitudinal change, that in itself would justify a larger liability if we're discounting present value cash flows.
So if you lower the discount rate, the liability goes up. And they lowered the discount rate from over 7 to 6.8. That's why that one went up to 7.4 million. Or it's a good share of it anyway. Well, I think those are the key points. Doug, yeah, that's it for me.
Okay. Mary? Nothing. Michael is saying nothing. Felicia, the audit's amount of our unfunded pension liability is drawn from Paul's documents. How do they relate to our GovInvest figures? Do you know? And if you don't know, can you look at it for next meeting?
Yeah, actually, GovInvest prepares our what's called our GASB 68 and our GASB 75 reports. How's that audio?
It's okay.
All right.
Oh, great. Great.
So
Okay.
GovInvest is our actuary reporting firm, and they provide those reports directly to our auditor.
Okay, so those are the same numbers.
Yes.
Yeah, and Corey and I, we worked on that specifically to get our numbers to agree as well. So.
Okay. Thank you very much. Seeing no other comments or questions, I would open it to the public, but there is no public. There is a question from Pam. But you're on mute.
You said comments, right?
Comments, questions, whatever you like.
So I think it's a fabulous, very well organized, very clear. The narratives are great. You did an excellent job, Paul. And I guess Corey too, because he helped. But thank you, Tom, for your expertise. I always feel like if I miss something, hopefully you caught it. So thank you, Tom, for all your hard work.
You're welcome. Well, I'd like to commend I think the audit is very, we're trying to make it useful. That was kind of our comments, and it's a check of our economic financial system, but it also can be a reference. That's a good point there.
And if I could just make one point of clarification, so related to the OPEB schedule and the employee portion, that there are some standards that we have to adhere to in terms of the presentation. So I'll work with Felicia and Corey, and as well as your OPEB actuary to come up with something that can be more transparent. But we'll have that determined for next year.
Thank you very much, Paul. With that, do I have a motion?
Okay, so this is, I move that we accept the fiscal year 2021 financial audit and annual comprehensive report.
Second.
How do we say that? ACFR?
It's been moved and seconded. Julia, can you ask for a vote roll call?
Thank you. Borstein,
Yes.
Gaffney,
Yes,
Biggs,
Yes.
Zilla,
Yes.
Kelly.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's move to number 9. And thank you, Paul. You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. It's really interesting and fascinating, and I'm sure you'll be love to hear about our monthly operation metrics. So please feel free. I'm not
All
sure
right,
who
thank
else-
you. I've got another board meeting, but thank you. Have a good evening.
I kind of thought. Michael?
we should be
Thank you.
at 4.
Number 4, Doug.
Paul, before you go.
Oh,
actually-
thank you. Thank you, Paul. All right,
Okay,
moving
All right.
backwards.
we're gonna
Let's
go to
go back.
number 9.
Yeah, he's right. We're on number 4.
All right, thank
Committee
you, Paul.
report out.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Tom, do you want, I think pretty much you just did, but would you like to also redo the finance committee meeting?
Well, we've kind of, sure, we've kind of gone over
I think we did.
everything that we
Yeah.
did. We did the Butterfield, we did the audits, we did the, the mid-year financials. The news was that our revenues were higher and our expenses were lower.
Yep.
And that's certainly good, and our financials look very good. That's about it, We've reviewed everything else already, so.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, Tom. Michael, do you want to do the Central Marin, or do you want me to?
Sure, I'll start and you chime in or whatever. Let's see. We're doing something different over at CMSA than RVSD, which is, it is our intention to do a thing called a pension obligation bond. And that was in the consent calendar, and we've been discussing it for ages. But both Steve and Felicia had some questions about it, and Tom and I both spoke with Jason over there about, anyway, a pension obligation bond is where instead of us owing for the unfunded liabilities, we're going to issue a bond and pay it down to zero. And at that point, we're going to start paying off the bond instead of paying it our OPEB liability. And there was some concern that it was coming out of the wrong bucket, that would be being used instead of capital improvements. And Tom, maybe you expressed it so eloquently, maybe you could just give a 2-second statement there about how it really isn't a different thing. It's just coming out of a different place, but it's kind of the same thing. And in the end, everything's a crapshoot, and there's some risk always involved. But if we're right, and we think we are, then we're going to end up paying less over time.
Yeah, well, Felicia and General Manager Moore had some comments, and I thought they were really good questions. One of them is, we pay 25% surcharge on capital bonds. Is there going to be a 25% addition for the coverage? No, there will not be any coverage requirement. The bonds will, the proceeds will go into a separate fund over at CMSA, and they'll be invested. And the big plan is that they get invested for a little bit more interest than we pay, so we'd be way ahead. And we owe money to release the unfunded liability accrues at 6.8%. And if CMSA can sell them for less than 3%, then there's a benefit to doing these pension obligation bonds. So that was kind of the comments. It's not a capital bond. It's in our operating budget. And it actually, at CMSA, it's structured like a refunding. So they're refunding one debt with another debt. It doesn't increase our indebtedness or anything like that. So seems like a pretty good idea. It's not a positive gainer. It depends how well the investments do. But it seems like it's got it. they did a Monte Carlo review and said it's got an 88% chance of being a benefit to us.
Thank you. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and, oh, wait, Pam's got.
Hold on, Michael. Michael, hold on. Pam?
I'm sorry. Go ahead and finish your presentation before I ask questions. So.
Well, I'm going to ask questions on that part.
Well, there's kind of a mixed bag. Yeah, I guess.
Why don't you ask questions about the pension obligation bond?
Okay. So I want to get this clear in my head. They, CMSA, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Is taking a bond out, correct, to pay off pension. Yep. And
correct.
Whose pensions are we talking about?
CMSA's employees.
Okay. And we will not be impacted.
Well, we're impacted by the fact that, we pay half of whatever cost they have. So we're part of the organization. So in that sense, we are. It doesn't affect our credit rating. It doesn't affect our financials separately. It affects CMSA's financials. And because we're part of the joint powers, it affects us.
So the other joint powers are paying into it too, correct?
Oh, correct. Yeah, of course. Yeah. And Pam, we had this discussion about whether this was the best way to go. I think their pensions over at CMSA were not as in good shape as ours.
No, I know. They're in really bad shape, like 4 million or something. Really bad.
In favor.
Really, let me finish. I don't feel that I know you guys have had this really deep dive discussion on this issue. So I don't feel really secure about it. I don't.
You mean over at CMSA?
What?
You don't think at CMSA we had a deep dive?
Oh, I'm sure you did, but the rest of the board here hasn't, and it affects our ratepayers. Am I right?
No, you're not right.
Okay,
Here's
good.
what's happened. It's a substitution. CMSA, and of course we have to pay our share of CMSA. CMSA has to fund the unfunded liability, and they get an amount every year, and it's based on the fact that the pension didn't earn 6.8%, it earned something less. Mm-hmm. And so we're substituting the payment for the unfunded liability with the payment on the bonds. And the plan is that there will be a savings every year, but CMSA is structuring this so that instead of reducing our payments, any savings will be put into a separate fund to protect, the members. So it isn't an additional cost; it's a substitution cost, and it should be lower. And I don't think their pension is about as percent funded as ours. It's in the 70-something%. And you remember that's what ours is about funded. So I think that they're not in desperate shape by any stretch of the imagination. They're in pretty good shape, just like we are in pretty good shape. But there is an unfunded liability there, which thank goodness we're both attacking. We have our plan and they've got theirs, and I think theirs is a reasonable plan.
So yeah, I guess this might be crazy, but with a potential stock market freak out with the impending possible war, does that change any of this, Tom?
Well, the future stock market, who can predict it? And I don't know. I wouldn't want to comment. I think I don't see a big sell-off. The biggest problem is maybe if there's inflation, but all of the indications are, oh, I shouldn't be talking about investments. No, I think that it's a reasonable program for CMSA to venture into.
Let me comment on that a little bit. It took a lot of discussion over there, and I was not really in favor of the bond at first. I wanted to pay it down like we do, but we don't have the same funds. We can raise rates. They're not in the same exact position as we are, and they didn't have the cash to pay it down, so it really wasn't an option over there. But looking at the different options, the bond, because a bond is a set amount. So you take out a bond and you know what the repayment schedule is. So that's solid. Your concerns, Pam, which are valid, are the proof that the bond is probably a good idea. Because if the economy goes to hell in a handbasket, we've got bonds which have a set schedule of repayment, and we've paid off the pension, unfunded pension liability. That's what eventually convinced me that it was the right thing to do. And we think that there's an 88% chance that we'll save, what was it, 1.9 million, Tom? No, Paul, Michael. Yeah, Michael, you weren't there, but yeah, wasn't it 1.9 million?
Yeah, a lot over a lot of years.
Yeah, over many years. Yeah. So that's where I was convinced. I was not on board of this at the beginning.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. So thank you. I'll open that up to you again later. But Michael, why don't you continue with the CMSA meeting?
So I'm gonna lump a bunch of this together because it kind of all goes together. The food to energy program, which is a really marvelous thing that we do over there, and we support it at RVSD. First of all, for many months now, we've had our second digesters down because it got a rip in it, and but that looks like after all these months, and I'll come back to that, it's coming back online now, and that's a really terrific thing. I think we got a couple months before that happens. But in the meantime, over there at Marin, the Garbarinos are going to be installing a piece of machinery over there. Right now, when the organics come in, they get dumped onto a big feed where they have two guys actually standing there, or two workers standing there, who are trying to notice and pull out any plastics or any other contaminants, because we don't want those going into the digesters over at CMSA. So it's very time intensive and labor intensive to have those guys standing there. And also perhaps not as efficient as new technology. So they're going to be purchasing a piece of equipment over there, which actually does a lot of that for you and sorts all of that rubbish out before it ever even gets to the two guys who are there as a last resort. And then it comes to where then it gets chopped up and hauled over to the feeder at CMSA. So they're doing that, and that should enable them to give us a much greater feedstock than what we get now. Which if they gave it to us right now, we probably couldn't do anything with it because one of the digesters has been down, but that finally looks like it's coming back up, and we can discuss that in a few seconds.
Can I interrupt for a second, Michael?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. They're giving us 7 to 10 tons per day. The plan is to get to an increase or to 40 tons a day, with a possible additional 20 tons a day. And some of our other sources are also adding that. And so certainly when we get our new
the Jenbacher engine in place, and we're going to be able to generate a lot more power, we hope. And I'd also point out, although we can only sell so much back to Marin Green Energy, we also talked about the possibility that maybe we're going to move up the second cover at some point, because we're going to replace that in the next 2 years. Maybe we'll replace that sooner. We're looking at that. So these two digesters are at full capacity. And we've also, over the past number of years, over at CMSE, we did some pilot digester studies, which appear to show that we can do a lot more food stock than we've been doing before it gets an upset tummy and we get into problems. So one of the things we did a number of years ago was we have currently a 750 kilowatt Wasatch engine that a few years ago kind of blew up on us, and but we got that fixed, and we've been producing lovely energy. Recently, just one of those things, excuse me, it looks like a piece of carbon got caught in one of the cylinders, and so the Wasatch engine is currently down also. So part of we had an emergency meeting on Monday to authorize the general manager to be able to buy a bunch of parts and get that fixed in the next couple weeks, by the time the second digester comes online. And we're also, we get a lot of thing called the liquid organic waste from different people that bring that to us, also for the digester. And so we're going to be purchasing a screening system for the liquid organic waste storage and biogas treatment system. And that's a really good thing, because the cleaner we can get our stock that's going in, the less maintenance we'll have to do at the end of the day. And it'll last longer and it'd be better for us. We rehabbed our secondary clarifier number 2, and that came out very nicely and is up and running and looks great. And so now we're going to go ahead and do number 1 and number 4 rehabilitation project, and both of those are in different states of repair, but we know what all the challenges are, and so we've gone out to bid on that. The digester cover, it was a long story. Evoco was really good. They sent us another one right away. Unfortunately, it was through some mishaps.
Michael, I got to stop you there.
Yeah, go.
No, I just got to stop you there. We had a closed session.
Oh no, I'm not going to talk about any. Not going to talk about any of that. Nothing about that. All I'm going to say is that it should have happened faster. No, not going to.
The emergency's over.
The emergency's over as far as replacing the cover. That's as they say. They got the second one in. They drained the wrong one. They filled it up with nitrogen. They got recycled water in there, and now they're feeding food stock into the second one. And so far, even as of today, everything looks like it's going along splendidly, and hopefully we'll be back online with the second one. And so, yes, Doug.
Excellent. No, that's great. Thank you very much. Pam, North Bay Watershed?
We had a meeting on the 4th. I just sent to Julia to disperse their newsletter for the winter. You should check it out. There's a couple of interesting things in it about water use and, I guess, abuse, especially of corporations. So they're looking at water wasters are going to get like a 3 strikes, and your flow will be restricted. And that's from the feds. So it's pretty interesting in this article. And the North Bay conference is coming up April 8th. That was in the consent, and it's virtual. So hope everybody can go. Also in this newsletter is this wonderful drought monitor map for Northern California and other various issues that has to do with the North Bay water. And I think it's 5 counties. We had a great presentation, but it was mostly about Highway 37. This has been going on for years, trying to figure out what to do, how to do it, who's going to do it. So it was a very long meeting trying to discuss ways that could help, and they still have got nowhere. And maybe in 10 years, maybe. There's a lot of issues around dredging versus not building up. It's kind of a mess. It's kind of, I don't know what they're going to do. even talked about ferries. And then we had another presentation that day from State Senator Bill Dodd's representative, which, yes, where is the 3rd Senate district? Up north, I guess. And then
Colson. Oh, no, third. I'm thinking Congress. Don't know.
I'll just give you a few highlights of the director's report from Andy. Oh, come over. And so they met to talk about this new Drought Fire Smart campaign, which is in the making, and I'll bring it to you when they finalize it. But it will incorporate the North Bay watershed. And they also, oops, went too fast. Oh no, I'm not going to go over that. They also talked about the One Water, One Bay priorities for 2022, talking about expanding collaborations, identify, develop, and co-fund feasibility study projects, convene forum for strategic planning with land use, housing, and water services. And again, talking about this Drought Smart and Fire Smart campaign. And I think that's it. I hope. Oh,
Thank you very much.
well, there's
Go ahead.
more. Just read the
All right.
letter. Okay.
Steve, General Manager report, verbal report.
Yes, sure. Thank you, President Kelly and board members. I've got 4 items to report on today. You might remember that for the first item, that today was the bid opening for the remodeling project for 1111 Anderson. And so to remind you, the original engineer's estimate for this segment of the remodeling, which is the bulk of it, it's the indoor reorientation of the building. The original estimate was 2.9 million, which has been the ongoing budgeted amount for the remodeling. We received 8 bids, which is very favorable. And the low bid, which is preliminary, whether it's going to be the actual contractor, but the low bid was 2.403 million. It was about 20% less than the engineer's estimate. What's good news also is 4 bids of the 8, or half of the bids, were either 2.4 or 2.5 million. So they're clustered down around 15 to 20% of the engineer's estimate. So that's good news. There's a special board meeting scheduled on Wednesday, March 2nd to award a contract to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder. And so there's more to come, but the early indications are very favorable. Second thing to announce is this time of year is when we submit annual reports to the Regional Water Board on our progress on meeting the cease and desist order from 2013. We also attach the commitments that we've made as being named on the CMSA NPDES permit. There's a list of tasks that's a lot of overlap with the cease and desist order requirements. And so we do an accounting each year that we provide the Regional Water Board. And at this point, the NPDES permit will be reissued in 1 year because it's a 5-year permit, 2018. So 2023 in January is the scheduled reissuance of the NPDES permit for CMSA. We continue, at the staff level to believe being named on that discharge permit is not appropriate. That there are other ways that we're held to account for performance, but we'll continue those discussions to see if the draft permit includes us as named, because they want to hold the JPA agencies to account for blending wastewater around treatment processes when there's a lot of stormwater inflow. And so it's an ongoing discussion, and we'll inform any obligations attached to that based on our capital improvement program that we put together for the IAMP this past year. So we do have a way of creating obligations that we can feasibly meet if we have to be named in that permit. So, but for now, we've met the list of obligations that was based on the previous IMP, and that was described in our submittal this past month. Also, with the cease and desist order obligations, we've met all of the pipe repair obligations from cease and desist order. And we have pump station 14 under construction, which has been delayed due to supply chain issues related to COVID. But it is under construction, so we will eventually be able to meet all the cease and desist order obligations. So that was kind of the report's generally very good because there's really very little unfinished business. So I'd like at this point to move on to my third of 4 items. And Julia, if you hear me, I'd like to share my screen. Share something on the community survey progress for the Larkspur Landing property. And so hopefully you can see this graph here. So some metrics at this point, the survey is going to go on until March 10th. And we've been reaching out to different outreach platforms, if you will. And so I'm going to show you some graphs and information. We've received 231 completed surveys to date. And 77% are from ratepayers, so over 3/4 from ratepayers, and 33%, or about 1/3, are from Larkspur. And so this graph that you're looking at shows starting at January 18th, and then you see here January 23rd, when the IJ article came out, we had 55 additional surveys that day. And these are the daily surveys we've been receiving. And there's a recent blip here in the last couple of days related to a Pacific Sun article that we had. And so we got a little bit of a response there. So we've gotten 231 so far. And then some more graphs, in terms of ratepayers being over 3/4 of the respondents. And then an interesting graph about where people live. Larkspur, again, about 1/3 of the people, and then you see the other communities who have, and where people have responded to the survey. And so we've been able to get into different people's newsletters. We may miss the boat on Town of Ross, but we've gotten into San Anselmo and Fairfax and other town newsletters about the survey. So that's the latest. Our efforts continue to get the word out. And that's all I have on that item. So I can stop sharing. I'm trying to see.
There we go.
There we go.
Thank you.
And then finally, I think it's worth noting, we just complete, one of our business plan items is to continue our outreach on messaging to our ratepayers to not use the sewer system inappropriately. And we did a 3-month campaign on 5 commercials now that we have on wipes, keeping wipes out of the sewer, keeping COVID-related wipes out of the sewer. That's 2. 3 is keeping pharmaceuticals out of the sewer and disposing of them properly. 4, we have a new commercial about calling us first and what a sewer overflow looks like. And even if it's a storm drain, we don't care. Call us to keep us from having Category 1 overflows. And then the 5th is the fog or the fats, oils, and grease message and keeping them out of the sewer. We actually made a modification. And so we just completed this 3-month campaign in January. We're going to start another 3-month campaign on cable TV channels and YouTube for March through June. And we had to modify our fog commercial because, SB 1383 says that you can't put fog in trash. It's organic material. So we took out trash it, and now it's now it's composted. Because maybe it'll eventually end up in CMSA's digesters that way. Who knows? So we'll be doing another campaign. And again, to remind you, we do work with CMSA, who does the public education program for all the sewer plants in Marin County. They provide 6 of the 9 shares of the cost through the other treatment plants. And we have all their logos on the end of each of these commercials. So, and it says Sanitary Districts of Marin County, plural. It's a message from all of us, but started by your efforts in the Education Outreach Committee here to get it off the ground, and they appreciate your vision and support of that. But we share the costs in nine equal ways. So that continues, and with that ends my GM report. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Can I ask you, when does the survey end again?
March 10th.
Okay, not enough time to put a commercial on Comcast about that.
No, I mean, nothing's impossible, but we would need to get Gold Street going on that, and they tend to take about 3 weeks at the minimum to really put together animation and a product. So it might cost about $10,000 to $15,000.
I wouldn't mind the expenditure if they could move, but I don't know if they can move that quickly. Okay, thank you, Steve. Verbal reports by board members. Mary, do you have anything?
I do not.
Okay, thank you. Michael?
No.
Pam?
Did you like the sticker I showed you about, what was it? Don't throw your baby wipes in the pipes. With that cartoon,
you saw that.
Probably 50 years old. And that was I was up at the Redwoods up near Prairie Creek up north. And they were all over the public bathroom. So I don't know, do we want to do that? But it was a good message.
Well, it was a good message, Pam, and I wanted to thank Julia. The second warehouse in San Rafael that my new company owns fully moved in this week, and they stocked the bathrooms. They stocked everything. There's all sorts of equipment. There's all sorts of stuff. They stocked the bathrooms, and I noticed there were wipes in the bathroom. So I went to the office and I got a bunch of don't flush your wipes, and I taped them to the walls in all the bathrooms, and an hour later the wipes all disappeared. So, it's not a bad idea. Tom, did you have anything for, okay. I did want to say that I don't know who got it in. I did write a letter to Dave Donnery asking him to put the Larkspur Landing survey in his newsletter, and he did. You said the Fairfax was in. Tom, if you can reach out to Ross and ask them if they could in some way publicize it, I think that'd be helpful.
Our team does reach out. I appreciate board members reaching out. It makes a difference. You all have participated with the postcards and everything, but just letting you know, we have reached out to town of Ross and all the towns. Yeah.
I mean, everybody in Ross has to go to the post office, right? They don't have home delivery of mail. So if we haven't put a stack at the post office, that might be an idea.
Good idea. Or tape one to the post office wall.
Yeah, good idea.
Great.
They have a kiosk there that you can post things at the post.
Still have a postcard, Tom?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay. I'll put one in Kentfield because my other organization has a postal box there. So that's a good idea. Number 9, consideration of approving a 1-year contract term extension amendment to the consultant services agreement with Shaven and Associates LLP to perform audit services for fiscal year 2011-2012 and authorize the general manager upon review and approval of council to execute the agreement. Steve?
Yes, thank you. Felicia, I could ask you to introduce it. I would just say that, Siobhan Associates did the audit that you reviewed this month for last fiscal year ending in June. And this proposed agreement would extend our contract with them to perform an audit again next year. Anything else?
It would be your what?
for fiscal 21-22 ending in June,
No,
on
but
June 30.
how many years for this company?
This would be the 6th year, 6. And the final year, because I believe the 6th year is the maximum. Although we did hear that you can change people within the firm to do the audit, so that could happen later.
You know, the extension is the same price they've had for 5 years. It's $20,500, so they haven't increased their price at all. But there's a reason they change firms, isn't it? That they, want to check, so maybe next year we'll consider a different.
The reason they make bankers go on vacation.
Yeah, yeah.
It's good practice.
Yeah, we want fresh eyes, right? And
Yeah.
don't want us to get too comfortable with each other.
That's exactly right. So we initially contracted with this audit firm in 2017. How's my audio?
Good.
Great. So we initially contracted with Siobhan and Associates after issuing an RFP, and their prices were very reasonable, and we're excited about working with their very qualified firm. But as the board of directors noted, the government code limits the number of years that any agency should work with any auditing partner, not specifically the firm, but the partners within the firm. But then, as Director Silla points out, it's good practice in any event to change firms after 5 or 6 years in any event. But we're pleased to be able to work with Siobhan and Associates for one additional year at the pleasure of the board, which will give Corey an opportunity to, work with this audit firm for 1 more year before issuing a new RFP and interviewing audit firms for the next 5-year term. And then, as Director Gaffney pointed out, we are getting very good price from them for this additional year, which the costs of which are about, let's see, I noted it. It's $16,500 for the district audit, and then $4,000 for the RVPFA audit. So, yeah, with that, I think you guys covered it all. Thank you.
Okay. Questions from board members? Comments from board members? Motions from board members?
I move we approve the consultant services agreement amendment for a 1-year contract term extension with Siobhan and Associates, and authorize the general manager, upon review and approval of council, to execute the agreement amendment.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Tom. Julia, can you have a roll call on the vote on this item?
Yes, thank you. Borstein,
Yes, ma'am.
Gaffney,
Yes.
Meigs,
Yes.
Silla,
Yes.
Kelly.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, number 10, informational items. Let's start with A, the monthly operational and maintenance metrics. Steve?
Yes, thank you. I will just note a couple items and then just answer any questions you may have. It was interesting how January's flows came down back to November levels, not necessarily September levels. So there was still kind of a built-in higher groundwater affecting flows in January, even though there was virtually no rain. And so we still saw some flows there. We're meeting our target metrics, in terms of our work plans. And then we did have an SSO that was maintenance caused, which is unusual, where we through trying to do the right thing and clean lines, there was some debris left behind, and it caused an overflow. So we're looking at ways to avoid that. Obviously, that's something that doesn't meet our mission. So fortunately, it wasn't a big spill, and we actually caught about half of it. It doesn't show up in this report, but it does in our state report, that our staff using techniques they learned in our training, we're able to recover half of the spill by berming things up in the field. And so I think our response was improved and we used things we learned in recent training.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from the board on the metrics?
Yeah, what is the CUPA inspections? The Marin County CUPA. It's on the page.
Yeah, the Coupa. Yeah, that's it's like, I forget actually what it means. It's the local agency for solid waste, I think, solid waste management, hazardous waste. So there's compliance with local oversight for our proper management of hazardous materials.
Okay.
The certified unified program agencies, which doesn't really say what it does, but I think that's what people say.
Yeah, thanks.
Was that on our list of?
What does CS maintenance cost mean? What does that CS?
Yeah, collection system.
Okay. For
And it's a term that.
We have on page 15, we don't have now.
Oh, yeah, it wasn't in the glossary, huh? Yeah, that one comes right out of CWIX. It comes right out of their state reporting system. It's one of the drop-down menus that you choose, CS maintenance cost. So, while we could have said it was debris, my investigation into the situation was it was debris that we put in there. And so it was maintenance cost. So we're reviewing how we're doing things, and got some ideas on what the right corrective measures are. Actually, in this case, I mentioned it here in the report. We put a manhole, and we did it this week. It's done. Where this problematic bend was, where we went up the wrong end of the Y. And dislodged materials. Well, we went in there and got rid of that Y, which is a pipe connection, and we put a manhole where that Y used to be. So now it's an access point, and that won't happen again.
Okay. Steve, the recycled water use I see for November, December. How's January looking on that?
Yeah, almost no recycled water use in January. The CMSA facility was down for many weeks due to quality issues, impacted somewhat by the storms and the higher flows. So CMSA was unable to generate recycled water to meet adequate standards, and so therefore we had no recycled water to use.
Okay, very good. Any other questions from any board members on metrics? Any comments or questions on California Sanitary Risk Management Authority report?
Yeah, we included this just as far as the CSRMA. We're part of this organization with, I'm trying to think how many there are, how many members. It's escaping me. 35?
35?
Is that right? 59, okay.
Nine?
Got the wrong number in my head. So yeah, and there's a lot more than 59 collection systems or wastewater agencies in the state, but it's a fair number of the larger ones that pool their resources to set up pooled liability programs for things like sewer backups into folks' homes and things like that. And then separately, a pooled workers' compensation program for accidents that may happen on the job in a high-risk atmosphere of utility management. So we attached the reports just for your information, if you're interested in sort of the history. They have some nice graphics in here as far as what the the funding and the losses that have occurred over these years to this pooled program of 59 agencies of which we're a member. And, some general accomplishments, which is, especially in workers' compensation, the claims frequency continues to be below historic averages. So part of pooling our resources is to get good training and preventive actions within our business practices. And so it seems to be paying off, in some ways. So it's been very beneficial, even in this last year, dealing with the historic storms of October 24th and some challenges that we had in backups that were not inexpensive, to deal with. It was really comforting knowing that we're part of this pooled group, that we all share risk and cost.
No cities are members. Did you notice that? Maybe the cities have their own program.
Yeah.
Yep. Anything else? Okay. With that, thank you all very much. I'm going to adjourn this meeting. Our next regular meeting is March 2nd, 2022 at 4 p.m. Via GoToMeeting. Thank you all very, very much.
Hey, isn't there a second meeting? Special meeting too, Julia?
That special meeting for March 2nd is the special meeting. The regular meeting in March is the 16th as well. And then there's a proposed second special meeting on March 30th. And I'm still receiving feedback from the board about availability.
Great, thank you.
And if I haven't given you feedback, March 30th is fine.
Okay, thank you.
It's fine for me too.
Okay, great. Okay,
Thank
thank you,
you all.
everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Good to see you all. Thank you, board members.